Like, we're going to bring up a candidate now who stands against this, and we have to help her win the election. Actually, her name is Ruth Papazian, and we're going to bring her up. She's running in a crowded field of Republicans against AOC. They're seeking the Republican nomination to be the Republican candidate running against AOC. Now, I know Ruth. Ruth was the first person to jump into the race against AOC, and we've been waiting for a year for you to speak. And also, if Ruth wins the primary, I get 2 cigars, right?
You get a third one for saying my name right.
Okay, Ruth Papazian. So let's welcome Ruth Papazian. Join me in giving Ruth a big Queens Village Republican Club welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for those kind words of introduction, Phil. I am honored to be invited to speak here, and I am honored to be invited to speak here. And I have to say, I think good things are worth waiting for, and I hope you feel that when by the time I finish my speech tonight. So what's going on these days? So the DNC is trying to rig another primary election. The president delivered an uplifting State of the Union address in which he laid out his vision for how America will build the world's most prosperous and inclusive society. It was truly an uplifting address. And the fake impeachment is behind us. The president is acquitted for life. So let's... So what does this mean? This means that it's a good time to talk about local politics. But first, I'd like you all to give yourselves a round of applause for caring enough about the issues and about my race to be here tonight. So thank you very much. AOC and other socialists like to define capitalism in terms of the 1%. But when I walk down the streets of this district, I see capitalism all around me. It's the Korean family that owns the dry cleaner, the Italian brothers who own the bread bakery, the Colombian couple who owns the restaurant. This is working class capitalism. I am a working class candidate, born and raised in the Bronx. So I know what the people in my district want and need. I also reflect the multicultural diversity of this district, which is home to more than 150 different ethnic groups. I am the first member of my family born in the United States. I didn't know English when I entered public school in the Bronx. My parents are from Egypt, and Armenian, Arabic, Turkish, French, and English are spoken in my home. Sometimes all in one sentence. So when I'm out giving speeches and meeting people, I get positive reactions from the people that I talk to. Democrats and Republicans, men and women, voters who are white, Latino, and Black, and from people who are young and old. And the funny thing is, you'd be surprised how many Democrats are receptive to my message. And you'd be even more surprised how many of those Democrats are people of color. So that young man over there, Ash Krikorian, he is with my campaign. He is our audiovisual production coordinator. And one of the reasons we brought him onto the campaign is that we are going to start videotaping these people saying why they dislike AOC and why they support me. And it's going to be broadcast quality, so we could use it in advertising, put it on YouTube, use it for social media fundraising, and so what have you. But more important, when you see the videos, you will be seeing people that the media insists don't exist. So it's going to be interesting. Now, so why do we have all these people against socialism and against AOC? People from all ethnic groups, racial groups, all walks of life. Why do we have this? Because many people in my district escaped from socialist and communist countries. They worked hard to get into the middle class. They do not want to be bankrupted by the taxes that it would take to fund socialist policies like Green New Deal and Medicare for All. My own parents came to the United States because they wanted to give the children that they would eventually have together the priceless gifts of freedom and opportunity. Many of their friends and relatives followed them several years later when Egypt tried socialism in the 1960s. It was a disaster from which the country's economy has yet to fully recover all these years later. So basically, I am not running on an ideological agenda. I am running to bring good jobs to this district and to be the voice of the workaday voters in this district. Okay, thank you. So I am focused on jobs, education, and quality of life. By ending job-killing regulations and taxation, the Trump administration has created historic levels of job growth. I want to build on this success with tax policies that encourage economic diversity in the East Bronx and Northwest Queens, and to encourage companies like Amazon to create good jobs for the people here. Now, economic diversity means that we won't have to travel up to 90 minutes each way to Manhattan to get jobs that just don't exist here. And for those who prefer to drive instead of using the increasingly dirty and dangerous subway system, economic diversity means that we won't get hit with a congestion pricing tax just because we have to work in Manhattan, but we can't afford to live there. I will also fight for school vouchers for charter and religious schools. And for specialized vocational schools. I want to improve education for all students, including special needs students. Employers desperately need skilled blue-collar workers, and there just aren't enough of them in the workforce to meet the demand. So I want comprehensive vocational programs that include funding for certification and licensing. And make no mistake, most special needs students can be trained for paying work. Disabled does not mean unable. But New York City Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza has shown zero interest in educating the 230,000 special needs students that are in the public school system, even under court order. He just refuses to educate them properly. Now, when they age out of the public school system, special needs students lack the job skills and the life skills to be as independent as possible and to know the dignity and self-esteem of getting a paycheck. This has got to change. I also support border and immigration policies that increase neighborhood security. Our neighborhoods are plagued with opioid addiction and terrorized by violent and depraved gangs like MS-13 here in Queens and Trinitarios in the Bronx. Remember that shootout between MS-13 gang members in an Astoria subway station about a year ago, in February, a year ago? Yeah, commuters had to run for their lives. And a teenager at the wrong place at the wrong time was hacked to death by Trinitarios gang members in the Bronx. Junior Guzman could have been any of us or our loved ones. At the wrong place, at the wrong time. Just imagine the horror of it. AOC doesn't care about any of this. She cries for kids in cages at the border, but she has not shed a single tear for Junior Guzman. Not one tear. She wants open borders and to abolish ICE. We'll have no idea who's coming into our country and for what purpose. And AOC's social justice warrior definition of criminal justice reform is decarceration. She wants to abolish all prisons. Now, by recruiting and funding Democratic Socialists to primary incumbent Democrats, AOC is rapidly radicalizing her party. And instead of being the voice of reason, establishment Democrats are dancing to the far left as fast as they can. Governor Cuomo is now talking about abolishing life sentences imposed for heinous crimes that used to be punished with the death penalty. And he's trying to close as many prisons as he can, as fast as he can. Now he's supposed to be the grown-up in the room, right? We are already seeing the effect of radical bail reform that the social justice warriors in Albany passed. They said no cash bail would apply only to nonviolent and first-time offenders. They lied. A Bronx man who viciously beat his girlfriend was released without posting bail. A woman in Brooklyn was arrested 3 times for anti-Semitic hate crimes and wasn't required to post bail the first time, the second time, or even the third time. A teenager in Manhattan who robbed 2 people at gunpoint didn't have to post bail either, and he committed a robbery at knife point just a week later. We now have a catch and release criminal justice system, and the quality of life and safety in our neighborhoods is already deteriorating. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. Justice Democrats and Democratic Socialists are steadily embedding themselves at every level of government. Homeowners associations, community boards, city council, district attorney, state legislature, and Congress. For example, in January, Socialists submitted dozens of applications to join and ultimately control community boards all over Queens. They've been at this in the Bronx for a couple of years already. Now, this is just one way that socialists are gaming the system so that you will have no representation at any level of government. This past election day, a revision to the New York City Charter was approved that allows ranked choice voting. So as with the community boards, Justice Democrats and Democratic Socialists will flood the zones with far-left candidates, and with ranked choice voting, one of them will eventually be the winner in successive rounds of reallocating votes. Now, you've already got a taste of what it's like not to have a voice in government. Road diets have created bottlenecks on our busiest streets, and the City Council voted to replace the 8 jails on Rikers Island with 4 high-rise jails in Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan neighborhoods. Both were imposed over the strenuous objections of the affected communities. but it's going to get even worse. Another charter revision was approved to create a rainy day fund, a budgetary slush fund that gives elected officials free rein to enact policies and fund programs that communities don't want. Taxation without representation will be the norm in New York City unless mainstream voters in both parties reject every far-left candidate running for office at every level of government in every election. No more staying home on primary day or election day. You get your out there and vote. Now, yeah, get your butts out there and vote. The race for Congress in 2020 is not going to be same old, same old. And to my way of thinking, it's not going to be Democrat versus Republican like it usually is. I think it's about being reasonable and not radical. It's about being accountable to the voters and about giving workaday voters a credible voice in Congress again. Now, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I need some love from y'all. And what I need is volunteers to circulate my ballot petitions so that I can get on the ballot and take it to AOC and MAGA, make Alexandria gone again. So if you want to volunteer, I have a sign-up sheet.
Can anyone sign it? Do you have to be a registered Republican?
Well, to circulate the petitions, you have to be a registered Republican, but I'm glad you asked that because Republicans and Democrats alike who are in the political mainstream, who do not want socialism, who do not want radicalism, I would ask you to please donate to my campaign so that, first of all, I can get on the ballot, but so that I can get other candidates in the Bronx and Queens who have mainstream conservative values also get on the ballot. So to donate, you can visit my website at www.ruthforcongress.com, and that's FOR, not the number 4, ruthforcongress.com. We have to work together to make sure that candidates represent their communities, that those candidates are on the ballot to give voters an alternative to the Justice Democrats and the social justice warriors who are representing radicalism. So we need people representing communities to run, not people representing radicalism. So thank you for all being here tonight, and may God bless you, and may God always bless America.
We have time for just 2 quick questions, so if anyone ever has a question to Ruth, you can address her now. Yes, Rich.
What's your plan to win?
Okay, well, first of all, you may have noticed that I'm a woman, I'm ethnic, I am the child of immigrants, and I feel that just that biography alone, worked my way through school, doing secretarial jobs and clerical jobs. I know we don't do identity politics as Republicans, but AOC does. So I give her very few openings to attack me on, okay? So I feel that just who I am already cuts off a lot of avenues for her. Also, we are working on my campaign on outreach to all kinds of communities. Now, we understand that no Republican can win without getting a sizable number of Democrat votes. So what we're doing is we're going to be doing outreach to minority communities that are socially conservative. Those would include a lot of the Puerto Rican and Latino community and Dominicans in particular. And I have been building relationships, and the campaign has been building relationships with people in Crowley's camp. We want to really go after his base, because here's something that a lot of people don't realize. AOC won the election with 48% of the votes. 52% of registered Democrats in this district stayed home. 52%. The majority. That's Crowley's base. And they're gettable.
One more question. Ira.
Yeah, I just want to say, not a question, you have a good message, it kind of responds to this fellow over here. If every time you get on the stump, you go down that same speech, you'll get better and better, but just the speech you got, you're hitting every single issue, and policy is important, and I think if you explain it the way you're doing it, you will get Democrats.
Thank you.
Let's thank Ruth Papazian for coming down to our club, and please, let's help her get on the ballot. Ruth, you can feel free to ask people for their help.
I will.
Because that's what we do. We help our candidates win, right?
I want you all not to leave here until you sign up my volunteer sheet, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.